No mai, hoki mai, welcome back into the breakdown. Well, it's another week and we have more All Blacks news, don't we? Joe Schmidt has officially pulled his name out of the hat, out of the race for the All Blacks coaching role next year and beyond. He put out a statement saying he's loved being back on the grass coaching for both the Blues and the All Blacks, but with the condensed time frame this year, he will not be applying for any coaching roles that extend beyond the Rugby World Cup. Are we surprised by this, JK?
No, not at all.
Is it a big loss?
I think he'll coach the Blues.
Wow.
He said coaching roles.
Yeah,
he said coaching roles.
He said that before.
I don't get that. He's just said he's not going to do any coaching roles.
Well,
so you're assuming that Leon McDonald is now, he's gone?
I'm assuming that he'll be part of the coaching staff either way.
Either way?
Either way.
Oh, yeah.
Either way.
Either way.
Either way. How does that work? Either way.
Well, I think there's a like.
What do you know that we don't know?
Well, there is a little bit of voce di corridoio for you this week. So I do know, and you can't actually quote me on this, right? So don't quote me because it's voce di corridoio. So it's true but not true. I do know that there's going to be up to 6 on the panel.
Yes.
So
up to 6.
2 from governance, right? 2 from management, so internal management. So that's probably Mark Robinson. 1 coach and 1 ex-player. And is it Manonu? Well, I can't say. But what I can say is that the ex-player would be difficult to choose, Mills. I think we need a big Māori or Pacifica representation, and that can come in the coach or the management. But if it was a player, you'd also have to go back a wee bit. You probably couldn't get Rito or Richie because you might see them as favouring the Crusaders. And then if it was someone like Ma, is he enough detached to actually not have a bias? And so, but it's going to stay private. And when I first thought about that, I didn't quite agree, Goldie, but I actually do agree. These people have a big job to do. It's a massive selection. And so they'll keep it quiet till afterwards, Mills. So is it you? Are you the...
It's Mills.
Hey,
I'd vote for you.
I told you not to tell no one. I said to you in the green room, man. Come on, what you did, the corridori, whatever you call it. Come on.
True, not true?
Unavailable, I'm sorry, mate.
Unavailable.
You're unavailable?
The big question is, why do the All Blacks or New Zealand Rugby need this coaching panel? Why did the board not make this decision, Jeff?
Well, I look at this, and I've had a lot of time to think about this the last couple of weeks. And I look at this and
You
go...
didn't think about your golf.
Clearly, I didn't think about my golf. But I think in 2023, New Zealand Rugby now, I think, looking to survive this season. What they're going to do is they're going to put financial and resource support around the All Blacks, right? The decision they're making right now is about 2024 and beyond, and it has to start now. And they need to start building that connection between the All Blacks and New Zealand Rugby going forward. Now, that is going to be different than it's ever been, because we've now got a different investment into the game who have different expectations. So I think that the interesting part about all this for me is, you know what I would like to have seen? I would like to have seen New Zealand Rugby, with its expertise or people inside its organisation, make the decision. Because I think they've been talking to these coaches probably for about 9 months. They spoke to Scott Robertson last year. They knew who his team was going to be. If they're doing their job, if they've done their research and looked in behind the scenes, look, we've just seen England straight away appoint their coach. Hasn't quite worked out the way they'd planned. Eddie Jones straight away. There's no interview process over there. If you've done your background, what are you going to find out, Sir John Kirwan, in a couple of hours in a boardroom with 6 people that you didn't already know about your coaches? People who have coached with you, coached against you. You think you're going to find out, you're going to make a decision?
I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I do.
Well, you will.
No, the problem is, like my dad would say, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. I think they have to go public because they probably went to Razor and said, Razor, why don't you and Jamie go together? Then we don't have to interview anyone. And they both said, nah, actually, I'm going to go. And I think we have 2 amazing candidates.
Yeah.
So they can't just pick one, right? I think if Jamie said no, they just go boom. But I've got 2 amazing candidates, and I think they're going to sit back and go, actually, let's take a real good look at this, right? That's why I think the assistants are way easier, because if I'm Leon McDonald, I'm going, do I go? You cannot be loyal to one coach for the sake of the All Blacks if you're the best assistant. Does that make sense? Did that make any sense, Mills?
No.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that Leon McDonald and Jason Ryan should be available for both.
Okay.
Because we want the two best assistants. So what the NZR should be doing, I believe, is go, righto, we've identified these two as great. Can both of you work? Because if we start, like, those three would be pretty good. Tony Brown, Jason Ryan, Leon McDonald, with either of those two coaches. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So does it then? Why hasn't then, if the assistants are that settled and cemented in, shouldn't they be on the penalty about who they work well with? I mean, if considering what you're sort of saying.
Worker never picks the boss, bruh. Never.
Well, I think we've got to. I look at this and I look at the rugby expertise that we're talking about, right? The rugby expertise that you need to make this decision, right? And this is no fault of the New Zealand Rugby Board, because there's not a position for that on. But I look at a guy who had integrity and mana and was so well respected in Sir Brian Lahore, right? He was that guy that you looked up and represented New Zealand rugby. And so whenever there was some controversy, he was the guy that went out and said, look, we've got this under control. I'm going to give you a perspective from coaching, and he coached. I'm going to give perspective as a former player. Now, where is those people, and from the last 25 years that work for New Zealand rugby now, who are there? Who understand the legacy of the All Blacks, understand coaching at the highest level? Who are the people who have actually been involved with the All Blacks in the group that work for New Zealand Rugby now, who can actually help them make this decision?
I think it's a really interesting point, and I think it's a position that actually, if you remember back, were you both there? I think you might have been. So BJ Lahore got put into this situation because Laurie's team was a bit shaky, and he came in as a coach advisor, right? But he also had that mana.
Campaign manager. Campaign manager.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
And then he stayed. So he actually created this role, and he was amazing. They haven't recreated it. Maybe you've got a good point. Maybe there should be someone that we're going, actually, that person is going to be, he's going to have the mana, done the coaching, been a player, and he's going to be that person. Because I would say that someone like BJ Lahore, and unfortunately he's not with us anymore, would be that one of the coach and ex-player that would be easy decision, right? Right now, who would that coach be for you guys?
Wayne Smith.
He said no.
Why did he say no?
I think he's boogie boarding, and why he.
You know who the other guy is? It's actually Joe Schmidt. I mean, you talk about a guy who's now understands the landscape of New Zealand rugby. Who has
impossible, mate.
Well, I know it's impossible, but what I'm saying is the fact that New Zealand rugby has never had that person. Steve Hansen left. You know, after he left, he was probably a guy that had that level of experience you're talking about. When you start asking the right questions to prepare these people, but they don't work for New Zealand rugby. And for me, it's an all-time. It's a every
role
day.
To be created.
There's multiple things I think need to be dealt with. I don't think there's enough rugby expertise from the last 25 years that have been right in there, in the middle of it.
It is Wayne Smith, by the way.
So why does it matter then if there is a conflict in, whether they're being coached and stuff? No. There's no doubt right now we need someone, right?
Integrity.
We need someone. Unless
it's Wayne Smith.
Well, unless the union just go along with like what England and Australia does, just pick one. Just have the courage to just pick someone rather than getting a panel to then later on perhaps blame.
That went well for
actually
England.
Be held accountable.
Well, exactly.
That's gone well for England.
Yeah, but hold on. You put a process in place, and this is my last point.
Sometimes CEO.
You put a process in place for something, all of a sudden they're the ones that you hold accountable.
The CEO of England Rugby did not go by process, and look what happened. They got beaten 52, whatever, irrelevant, because they got thumped.
Yeah. Well, clearly he didn't do his homework.
They changed their coach. Well, but this is
by
actually doing it.
Wallabies, that's going to happen to the Wallabies?
Well, but different, mate. When you get Eddie Jones, who's actually been in a World Cup campaign, and he's been in so many. But that's why it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. That's why I actually think, do you want Mark Robinson as CEO going, actually, I'm going to pick that? Or do you want to have some people around him going, let's take a look at this? I agree. I think there's a role.
New Zealand rugby. They should already be there.
Yeah, I agree there's a role, and I think that's something that the New Zealand rugby should look at that role. And I think, like you said, it's someone like a Wayne Smith who actually can go in there and just be like Sir BJ.
Just lastly, Joe Schmidt said no coaching roles. He's not coaching.
Here we go.
Give him that role.
Who's going to coach the Blues?
I'm just going to let these two keep going.